This part of presentation will be focused on software stack for high-performance computing. We will tell some technical info, how it looks underneath, and show how Spectrum Conductor software works. Let's start from the bottom of high-performance computing stack. The first slide shows us one of the main components, enterprise grid orchestration. It is kind of enterprise connection bus to build hardware stack. The first main component is a resource orchestrator kernel process, which is known as the virtual execution machine kernel daemon, and runs on the master host. This daemon is the resource allocator and placement engine to arbitrate resource usage between competing workloads from different tenants. The second component, which is very important, is the Load Information Manager, LIM, which provides dynamic state information about hosts such as CPU utilization, RAM query length, memory, network, and disk statistics. Next, we have the Process Execution Manager, PEM, which provides execution capabilities such starting and stopping of processes or containers. The LIM daemons elect a master which acts as a central point of aggregating information about the cluster. The last is the Ego Service Controller, which acts as a client to the resource orchestrator kernel and manages the lifecycle of distributed service processes. It supports dependencies between services, service groups, service restart, and failover. From perspective of hardware, we have another view of distribution. We have management hosts that provide management services within the cluster. The master host and all master candidate hosts must be management hosts. The master host is the first host installed in the cluster. The master host controls the rest of the hosts in the cluster and is the interface to the clients of the cluster. The resource manager for the cluster resides on this host. There is only one master host at a time. If a master host fails, another host automatically takes over the master host role. Hosts that can act as the master are called master candidates. Of course, there should be the web server hosting the cluster management console. Only one management host is elected as the cluster management console web server. On the second slide, we can see how many services are running to server high-performance computing cluster. We have here, of course, REST API services, Elasticsearch, or deep learning services, which add new features to whole software. There is also every instance group created and visible as a separate service on the list. So Ego has whole main information about cluster. Using terminal and Ego commands, we can start and stop each service. This task, of course, we can also do using Spectrum Conductor graphical interface, but from administrative perspective, in some situations, terminal can bring some more useful information and will be faster method. Most of administrative tasks are made in Ego. From terminal, we can create resource groups, roles for users or consumers. We can also view how HPC stack works, how many slots are allocated to the project by each consumer. For example, on this slide, we can see available resources, so connected hosts, amount of memory, utilization, etc. Next slide shows resource groups, which we can work with amount of available slots. We can even check how many slots every consumer uses. But all of these tasks are also made by Spectrum Conductor software, which is on the top of installation. This is graphical user interface where each user can do their jobs as the end user or maintain the cluster as an administrator. This is the part which Tomek will show the best. Tomek, stage is yours.
Thank you, Marcin. IBM Spectrum Conductor with Spark is an enterprise-ready solution that brings together hardware and software to fulfill modern AI machine learning platform requirements needed by administrators, developers, and data scientists. It sorts out complexity of AI machine learning software diversity and makes creation of AI development environments as simple as it's possible. When system is ready and configured, it is a matter of seconds to create a new environment for data scientists. Spectrum Conductor provides simple dashboard which shows you cluster health. You can see your hosts here. You can see CPU and GPU utilization, and you can monitor your ego services as well from here. User management and multi-tenancy is important feature for enterprises. Spectrum Conductor can authorize users based on its own database or using LDAP services. Through collaboration mechanism, it makes possible not only sharing your work with your colleagues, but also provides teamwork possibility. You can assign privileges using predefined ones, or you can create your own roles. As Marcin mentioned, Spectrum Conductor under the hood uses HPC software to schedule its jobs. But what is important, through its resource groups, it provides cluster resources. Resource group mechanism can implement simple to complex resource sharing configurations. There is a term slot there, which means fraction of CPU or GPU you can assign. Resource group can utilize all hosts in the cluster or part of hosts in your clusters, as you can see in the screen. In Spectrum Conductor, you can have many Spark versions, which plays job coordination roles. You can schedule your Java or Python job on cluster using Spark submit mechanism. For AI and machine learning software stack, Spectrum Conductor uses Anaconda Package Manager, which is number one in data scientist world. You can create many different Conda environments on your cluster. For example, at the same time, you can have Watson Machine Learning, which is a new name of IBM Power AI, in version, let's say, 1.6 and 1.7. You can have as well different versions of TensorFlow, libraries, and other machine learning frameworks. For notebook-like type of work, Spectrum Conductor lets you use Jupyter Notebook or Apache Zeppelin. To bring it all together, administrators create so-called instance groups, which combines all described earlier components, Spark, Jupyter notebooks, Anaconda environments. It can utilize slots from resource group it is created in. From that view, you can execute your applications, you can execute your batch jobs, you can start your notebooks, you can share your notebooks with colleagues, and you can monitor monitor your work. Thank you.